Welcome to the Fit Affiliate Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Kirkman, and sitting alongside me is Tony Ronke, the founder of Fit Affiliate and all-round CrossFit OG. The mission of Fit Affiliate is very simple: protect the affiliate model. Our sole purpose is to help affiliate owners and coaches attain freedom. We aren't here to tell you what to do, but to instead build your ability to believe in yourselves. Enjoy the show. And welcome back to our next episode of Fit Affiliate Podcast, joined as always by one of my favorite humans, Tony. And today we have our special guest, the one and only Nathan Bird, Director TGC, Birdbox Coaching, all sorts of good things in the very busy CrossFit ecosystem that you're involved in. So it's good to sit down and have a chat and see where we go.
Hey, how you doing?
We have a bearded bird. That's the best version of the bird, and that grows in so fast. This is like 20 years of my beard, but Birdie's like, yeah, I'm gonna grow a beard, and then poof, it's just right there.
I had a haircut not Thursday before, so this is literally 2 weeks of growth. 2 weeks of growth, yeah. And I just said to the barber, I was like, I'm just gonna leave it. And I said, when's my next appointment? So next Thursday is my next appointment. So he's gonna do hair and face, and I've quit shave my own face now.
You will literally look like a lumberjack by next.
By then, yeah, it'll be out of control.
Yeah. Well, sweet. Well, this podcast is actually 2.0. Nobody else knows that. Last time we had a glitch, but I think it's a good thing because the last one was a great conversation, but I think all of us have had some time to marinate on some of that conversation. So we'll kind of recap. And the only reason I say this 2.0 is I'm pretty sure that I'll refer back to, and everybody's going to be like, what episode was that? It doesn't live anywhere, so don't go looking for it in the archives. But
I think
maybe one day we'll release snippets from
Signal. And now I have a Starlink. I'm not worried about the internet at all. So here we go.
Yeah,
I got a Starlink.
No one's standing out in front with a coat hanger.
No, we're all good.
No, not this time. Not this time.
Not this time.
Well, sweet. Well, I mean, Bird, you don't really need any introduction. Obviously, Lisa did a great job explaining to the world who you are and what you've done. But I think, and we talked about this on the last one, but one of the fun things about this one is every once in a while, like good friends come on here, and no doubt about it, I've got some good friends in the CrossFit space, but we talked about this in the last one. One of the things that's great about you and I is that we've literally like traveled the world together. So we have like everybody's a CrossFit friend in the CrossFit space, but like you and I have been through some crazy stories and some crazy places. And unfortunately, those were very candid last time, but I do want to go back to them because I think it's a big part of the story. But I guess for everybody else who doesn't necessarily know everything about the Bird, Nathan Bird, give them the backstory on kind of how you got to where you're at and now where you're, well, currently in your castle in France, but give us the backstory on that so everybody knows your CrossFitness. Okay.
I first of all started off by studying and going into sports injury clinic, working as a therapist. However, my original background was playing rugby. I did gymnastics before that, which was my gymnastics experience to be able to hold good enough body shapes, which developed me into CrossFit gymnastics. I moved to the Middle East and opened CrossFit gyms in the Middle East for Arab investors, where I worked within a coaching team. I came in as head coach from the beginning. And then that's when I met CrossFit Gymnastics. Started working with CrossFit Gymnastics where we traveled around. However, when I did that, that's when I went on to further studies in areas of strength conditioning, sport and exercise psychology. These kind of things and elements developed. There was transitional changes within CrossFit Gymnastics, which started in 2019. From there, then I developed Birdbox Coaching Development, which was directly used as a CrossFit approved course, which has now changed to, no, it was a CrossFit preferred course, which changed the words, but basically it was a CrossFit course. Whichever ones we were deciding at the time. Now it is a CrossFit approved course. There we go. I'm not sure.
Depends on what year it is, where it lives on the CrossFit website. That's pretty much the only change.
And also at the same time as that, we've got CSC for CrossFit Gymnastics, which is CrossFit Speciality course, which used to be SME for subject matter expert. However, it has led me to the position where I am today, where we have CrossFit Gymnastics is now a level 1 seminar, and we just released our level 2 seminar last weekend. Ran it for the first time, which was a 2-day course, which was super successful, and we're really excited to get that out to the world, further reaches. Which the level 1 course is also now an online course. It's not an online course that you may have experienced in terms of potentially CrossFit online courses. It's a very deep online course that may take a period of time for you to go through. It's providing high CEU numbers because of the volume and the quantity of that course, and the quality of that course. That's an online course which is part of CrossFit Gymnastics. But Birdbox started as an online course. It is a 44 CU online course focusing on just the psychosocial elements of coaching. And from that, the live seminar came out, which is psychosocial elements of coaching, but also including technical elements of coaching. And we are running that internationally. We're running more than one on a weekend now. We're running it in multiple languages, direct in language as well. So we now have a team of coaches for both businesses. And Birdbox is TGC, TGC is Birdbox. However, we present as TGC as CrossFit Gymnastics.
Everything is incestuous and happy. There's a couple of things about that story too. One, that you might get the award for the fastest recap of your past out of anybody, because normally it's usually like this long one. But I'm actually glad that the last episode did botch out, because we would just have re-recorded this anyways, because a lot has changed really since then, just in terms of like new announcements, new enrollments, and partnerships and whatnot. So it's probably better timing for this episode to go live anyways, especially given the launch of the level 2, which was huge. That looks cool. And I mean, I know personally that is probably hands down one of the most requested and also like misunderstood courses in the entirety of all things CrossFit. Like, I don't know, you could not teach a gymnastics seminar, because obviously they loved it. But everybody be like, when's the level 2 coming out? I'm like, listen, you're nowhere even near ready for that course. But that course at the time was also very different than the course that it is now. And so I'm glad that there is a continuing sort of in-person education component for that. And I'm also glad that it was so well received. Not that I ever would have doubted that, because everybody always wants to jump right to the next one. I'm like, just take some time before you come in and try to do some pullovers and rip your thingy off, because you don't want to do that.
We still have some of more of what we would call next level CrossFit gymnastic movements in the course. However, it used to be just heavily artistic gymnastics. We've really developed it so that it's the next progression and thought process of what CrossFit should be using in terms of competition movements. But it's also about training adaptations for current CrossFitters, even for longevity. But then also beside that, we do a lot of observation and assessment. So not just the new movements in the coaching, we might get groups of people to do butterfly pull-ups, kipping toes to bar, handstand push-ups, kipping, various movements where we would look at the breakdown of the movement, identify why the breakdown happens, see what the potential injury risks are of them doing that movement, and what exercises would we provide and prescribe to these individuals to become more efficient and prevent injuries, not just doing more of the same to get better. So it's really trying to help coaches open their eyes a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be a very cool course for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. And if nothing else, it's a course that makes like kind of like the L3, L4 conversation, whatever. It makes the other courses make more sense, I think, to some degree. And especially now, after people watch the competitive element of it, people are like, I need to do more. I'm like, listen, not even doing the basics yet. So let's just start there before we jump in that one. But I think we'll come back to that and talk a little bit more about what's in the new course. But in regards to your journey, I think it's kind of funny to be on the outside, but also be alongside that journey with you. Like, your experience in CrossFit, particularly in like CrossFit Gymnastics, otherwise, was such a fortuitous series of events. Dare I say, even almost serendipitous? Because for one, you might have arguably one of the biggest backgrounds in education of anybody that I've ever come in contact with in the CrossFit space. For those of you guys that don't know, Nathan was addicted to school. He's now in rehab. So he's now in rehab from school. Just kidding. Like, Bird, how many like different fields or degrees did you go through, or whatever you call them over there?
It was 3 specific fields, or regional fields, for the reason of trying to triangulate the depth of my coaching, specifically for coaching. I did work in sports injury clinic. However, I don't like the being confined within a room. I do enjoy it, but like, give me 2 hours a day maximum. I had a beautiful clinic room as well. So if that was really good and that couldn't keep me in all the time, then it had to be a change. Everything was really about coaching. To be a more effective coach, I had to diversify and understand the depths of coaching and the areas of what we need to understand. I obviously did my level 1, my level 2 back then before level 3 came out, of which I collected thereafter. But it was more about understanding specifics for coaching athletes or coaching individuals, and of coaching people of all levels. So therefore, strength conditioning was a consideration to be able to actually understand what are we implementing and why. However, the psychosocial elements of coaching is the depth of what we actually provide through Birdbox. like the soft skills of coaching, but also how we should be communicating behavioral aspects, nature aspects, like many different components of coaching that will, one, make you a better coach, but also if you're in the field of teaching, like it's pedagogy, it's those considerations as well.
Yeah. I mean, so what I mean by it being fortuitous too is that you had obviously came in at an interesting time, because right at the same time that you had like started dabbling around in TGC was when I was like, we really probably need to set up a European staff, because I'm sick of this transatlantic flight, because I was always the one that had to go there. And it's really, really mind numbing to do it back to back. But at the same time, you were also finishing up all the university stuff. And so it was like, I remember there was a whole field of candidates, and I'm sure we talked about this in Amsterdam. And I was like, well, one of these kids is going to make it forward. The other ones, we'll see if they make it out. And so like, that was kind of the first fortuitous thing, but it was such a no brainer, as you brought so much of that needed conversation, I think, to, I don't want to call it the professionalization, but that's really probably what it was, of the course more than anything. And it was cool to watch it kind of make that segue, but like, it was timing, and then like lots of other external events in the CrossFit landscape and ecosystem. And so I think it was cool. And then, Birdbox was able to be born from it. But, the old days, I think, that are funny just to think back to like that Amsterdam time. But we were talking about it. I was just laughing about it on the way back here as I was scrambling back to make this podcast for the second time, which I thought for sure I was going to have to cancel. But I was just laughing about when we were in Madrid together, and then walking 5K in the morning to the gym, because we couldn't get an Uber or Lyft, because that wasn't really a thing back then. And then and I think we talked about this on the last episode too, but in the morning getting to the gym, we're the first ones there, and all of a sudden around the corner comes the translator and everybody else from the gym straight from the bar. And the translator, I was like, you have not slept? And he was like, no, I'm good. And literally didn't really miss a step the whole day. But there's so many parts of those stories. And we talked a lot about that on the last one, and I do want to recap some of them, but I was laughing about that one on the way here. But there's so many of those travel stories, which I think are interesting. But I think, in my opinion, give way to so much of this conversation that, like, I'm not saying Birdbox was built on it or TGC was built on it, but everybody always likes to ask what makes the coaches unique, and how you become one of these coaches or otherwise. And we talked about this, but one of the nice parts about gymnastics is the complexity of the behavioral development part of it, right? Where it's not just about movement. It's not just about points performance, but like, I can write it on the board and then you go do it. And then I tell you that you did or didn't do it well. You have to get into the neurological aspect of fitness so heavily in terms of the human behavior parts of it, which is all great on paper until you get on a plane and you fly transatlantic on a red eye, and you get off the plane and then you have no idea what you're doing. You can't read the signs. And now you've got to go into this room of people who do not speak your language at all, and then also have to try to address their behavior. And to me, in my journey personally, what was the biggest eye opener for me in coaching, and one of the reasons why I think it's cool to bring you on here, is when you get stripped of your skill set, I think is when it starts to really click to you that, oh, there's something different between coaching, teaching, training, and really just delivering information versus actually changing behaviors. And when you can't speak to somebody, your entire skill set has been removed. You're just like, I don't even know what jokes to use right now, right? And that is such a big piece of it. And I wish that like every coach had that opportunity, but I know that won't ever be the case. But I do think that's a big part of it. But I was laughing about that on the way here, and I was like, if only we could just record some of those and then play them. But then I was like, that's what made me laugh. I was like, no, we definitely should not record any of those travel incidents and give them out there.
No.
Something that you said on the last episode about the traveling and how important that was in the evolution of a coach, in being able to learn, like, you've got flights at weird times, you might have stayed in a crappy hotel, or you've slept at the airport, like in developing that ability to connect with people and be resourceful, rather than walking in on a red carpet and going, here's your seminar, sir, like away you go, rather than I've got to learn how to connect with people to navigate my way around this place that I've never been before. I don't know anyone, but I've got to get from point A to point B and make this thing happen. And I think that was something that really stuck with me out of that, was the power of that. The travel really built that resiliency and ability with coaches to learn how to connect on the fly as a means of survival, I guess.
Yeah. Recently, I've even had the same situations. I know most recently I did Birdbox in Ecuador, and I think that's the most ill I've ever been. I literally, I think I landed on the Thursday. I landed on the Thursday afternoon about 4 p.m. and I slept until 6 a.m. of the Saturday morning before the seminar. Went and did the seminar, went home and slept directly after it. Went and did the seminar, went and slept directly after it. Went straight to the airport. I didn't see anything of Ecuador because I was sick. But the seminar was run, all feedback was provided to the participants via email, everything was completed, but nothing was done in terms of just the presentation of the seminar. Perform with charisma and direction, and this is also with a translator as well. So it's a super difficult task. 2 weekends ago, I was in Cancun, Mexico. Same thing. I come back, I'm sick. I come into Nuremberg this weekend, just gone, and this is like when it hits me full blown. So therefore, I'm arriving, and I'm luckily I had a team of boys with me, which was really good. Stories and
You asked him a question, Lisa. Now you hijacked his internet.
we're having drinks with each other. Did you lose me then?
Yeah,
I don't think natively you're fine. I think you're good. I just think that it's the buffer on this end. Yeah.
So yeah, talking about like the adventures of seminars is like I've got the support of the boys. I had Barney, Joa, Fraser is our new lad this weekend, and I also had Nico running media for us, myself, and Dane, who came in from the States, who'll be running level 2 out in the States. These boys are supporting me whilst I'm sick. However, we're in Germany, so they buy beer. We'll share a few beers. Obviously, the best recovery to being sick. But then we actually do have a sauna, and that really like sorted me out having the sauna on the first night. So we go in the second night after we've been for food, after we have more beers. I'm thinking of taking it a little bit easier, start drying off of the towel. And I turn around and I'm already seeing Barney, who's another one of my lead coaches for level 1, but he's also going to be taking the level 2, who's sliding along the floor outside the sauna area on his belly because everything's wet and slippery and the boys have had too much to drink. This is a seminar. This is a great weekend. This is a typical weekend. However, when you come into the weekend, you can also see the presentation, the quality of the seminar. No one knows that you're doing that on the night.
No. It's like I said, sometimes I wish that there was videos, but then I'm very glad that there's not videos of that.
That's the biggest problem we have now is that we've got Nico, who runs our media, who just follows us around now, and he does a fantastic job. The problem is that he's the worst in our social groups because you do one thing wrong and then all of a sudden in the group this meme comes up of you and you're like, this guy is relentless. And
that's how Tony feels about the podcast. I take clips of little takeaways.
It's well, I mean, there's a lot to that too, and it's the humanizing component of it. But you kind of said it perfectly. Like one of the cool things about it, and it's for sure an experience that everybody should work toward, is being able to travel the world and do the thing that you love and really be paid to do it, and get to do it with other people who are just as appreciative to do it, because you do get so many of those endeavors. But the thing is that you would never know it. Nobody in those rooms ever know it. I mean, I've been a part of seminars where it didn't go well, and not that I led, but I had taken them and I was like, somebody did something wrong the night before. But I will say the TGC's always had a pretty good track record of keeping it together. My biggest debauchery was usually dragging everybody like 100K out into the middle of nowhere to take a photo of something. And everybody's like, dude, I have walked for 32 miles today. I don't want to walk anymore. I'm like, we're almost there. We got to get to this fountain in the woods. They're like, this is horse shit. But anyway, so back to the thing that actually matters though, is in so much of the behavioral part of it, I think comes from, that realization that like, I can't communicate with them, but I can still make a difference for them. And, you start to learn that through basically being stripped of your native language and through your typical comfort things. I think a lot of people think that this journey into becoming a good trainer and a good coach is like, dragging along this perfect sort of well-manicured toolkit that they're going to deliver to anybody who will listen to them, right? Like whoever's going to listen, I'm going to unleash this litany, this diatribe of all of my years of knowledge. And that's well and great if you live inside your comfort zone. And such a cool part of my personal journey was like getting someplace and being like, I might as well know nothing because there's nothing that I can say right now that's going to work. And so, but then you realize very quickly that I don't need to speak to you. Instead, I can better just ask these people in a different language a question, right? I can have the translator ask them. I can ask them what they're struggling with, why they're not learning this. And then they start to learn it that same way. And that's when it starts to click. It's like, oh, it wasn't really about me having to come and teach these things as much as it was about me getting to learn the room and then deliver the information. And I think that part of it gets flip-flopped so much with so many people. I think seminars are such an easy way to indoctrinate people. I'm not advocating everybody goes out to a foreign country and learns to coach or tries to coach, but wouldn't be the worst use of some people's time, I think.
I spent my time in the Middle East as part of my coaching journey, so therefore it puts you in a different situation, different environment. You have to learn the culture and learn how individuals respond. So that was a good stepping stone for what I do already now. But yeah, to be taken away from the ability to communicate with words and having to communicate for a translator it is super important, but also in terms of different cultures and the way they respond. So if you consider comparing something like Russia to the Middle East, to Scandinavia, to America, there are 4 very different areas of people and different way they perceive things and the way they receive your information. So you have to learn to adapt. And then I go and tear my bicep in 2015 in Nuremberg in Germany. So then all of a sudden, where you can then maybe lose one of your coaching communication forms, I now have lost demonstration as well. So then it really pushes you and tests you as a coach on how you can read the room, communicate and execute as a coach moving forward. And that's where your soft psychosocial skills start to come in.
For sure. And I feel like culturally at this point, you should share your Russia stories, but we won't. We'll do that at a different time because I think everybody needs to experience a Russian bathhouse.
I do give one example of a Russian story when we go in Birdbox Live seminar, and that's when I do the self-reflection reports, and I talk about the Gibbs cycle and how we should be using critical reflection as part of our coaching development journey. I talk about how I ran. I must have been like early day lead, maybe my 10th lead for TGC or CrossFit Gymnastics. And it was a big Russian guy who had a very large outburst that was basically translated as, why the fuck are we doing this? I talk about how it was good conflict management by myself, but however, in review, it managed me actually to adapt the way I lead the seminar and change the layout of the seminar because the specific thing they're working on was right at the butt end of the seminar. And it didn't work. And so therefore, how it basically talk about how reflection makes things change, but the stories in Russia are fantastic. Russian stories are a great place to go, but it's even better when you have a Russian translator and a Hungarian assist, and then you just put on the words, hey, so what do you think about the policies in Russia at the moment? And watch the 2 conflicting conversations happen, of which both of them now are on the same page. For modern times changes, both of them are now on exactly the same page. But back then it was a very interesting thing over vodka.
Yeah, you give them and mind you, that comes up after at least a bottle of vodka and some horse meat, and then some palm leaves and some lashings and some other, and then back out in the snow and then back into the heat. And everybody should experience it once in their life. But anyway, so on the Birdbox, which is really where the meat and the potatoes of this conversation exists, and one of the main reason that we wanted you to be on here, obviously wasn't just to tell stories of travel and for us to regale everybody with those, but the main thing obviously is Birdbox Fit Affiliate has a very identical philosophy as it applies to between training and coaching, and particularly Birdbox's development of the psychosocial aspect of coaching, and frankly, the fact that you're literally the only one that's doing it. And I think it's such a powerful and profoundly powerful part of it. And I think a lot of people sit on the cusp now of this awareness of, I think there's more to this thing. And as they continue to climb the journey of acquiring more information to become a better trainer, more education, whatever you want to call it, more specific knowledge, they're realizing that this is not inherently increasing my ability to relate to people. More particularly, it's not necessarily making me more valuable in the relationships that I have with the people who are paying me. Like transactionally, they pay me for my programming, my experience, and my knowledge of the quote unquote methodology. But transformationally, I seem to be missing the ball. And then this is where, for me personally, coming into the Birdbox course and seeing it firsthand is really where I think you've done a great job of picking up that ball and being like, hey, let's move into this bigger part of the conversation. But I think I'd be doing a disservice if I gave my opinion of it. So I guess what made you decide to bring this thing to life, and where do you, I guess, see it going?
It started off with an area of study, and then from that, it was also an identification of weakness. First of all, an identification of weakness for potentially our team, how we can grow, but potentially an identification of weakness within seminars and the education context that some people receive. Not fully understanding definitions and the direction of where they want to be going as coaches. All coaches should have a coaching philosophy. A coaching philosophy should guide you. It should set out your morals, your values, your ethics. You'll create a mission statement. You'll decide on a leadership style. You'll have a coaching style, and you will be able to have a written coaching philosophy that you could provide to your members, to everyone that you coach. And if you don't have that, are you actually coaching? Because what's guiding you? And so Birdbox online course really focuses on this. We touch it on the live seminar, but most of it comes in the written feedback at the end is, well, you didn't have a coaching philosophy. So what is guiding you? What, apart from a methodology, and there's a difference between a methodology and your coaching philosophy. You need a methodology, your CrossFit level 1, either CrossFit Kernel 2, be your methodology moving forward, but you need your philosophy on how you present as a person to individuals using that methodology. So that's a key step from it. But before you can even start to consider that, which people try to jump straight into, you need to define things. So you need to define what we're actually trying to achieve. And therefore, in this case, it's coaching. We define coaching from a reference, and then we bring in our own references as well to this. So the first one is coaching is the organized provision of assistance to athletes or a group of athletes to develop in their chosen goal of sport. Now, that's not our reference. That's a reference from Kent in 2000. We take it as an academic reference, and then we've changed it a little bit. And what we've also done is we've provided another reference to exercise instruction, where people are training people, but it is exercise instruction. It's just taking them through the motions. If you look at people in the gym day to day, people go into Les Mills classes. Les Mills classes is exercise instruction, but they don't claim to be coaching. They just say it is a class, and therefore they're doing exactly what it says on the tin. However, if people are coming into a CrossFit gym and they're doing the equivalent of a Les Mills class where everybody's doing the same, everyone's receiving the same coaching cues towards the same direction. However, it's not specific to the individual, the demand. Therefore, this is exercise instruction and it isn't coaching the individual to their needs. So we would say then coaching is the facilitation of a training program with personal interventions for the participant, helping them to develop in their chosen goal of sport. However, the key note underneath that we would say is that you'll aim to connect with and advance your athlete. And the connect with is then the vitally important part, which comes down to coach-athlete relationships. And that starts to become in the psychosocial elements of coaching. That is, do you have the ability to create a relationship with an athlete or a group of athletes? And we go further from that and start to explain that if there is no coach-athlete relationship, no coaching can happen. As we progress from there, we have a pyramid, because CrossFit loves a hierarchy of development. So we maintain a pyramid that people can follow up. Coach-athlete relationship sits there at the bottom. So you must develop a coach-athlete relationship. If not, there is no coaching. But the next step from there is biomechanical understanding. The CrossFit level 1 and level 2 do a fantastic job of being able to take you through the first step through the door and start becoming an instructor and a trainer. However, to be able to move further and closer towards becoming a coach, you must develop into further areas. One is the coach-athlete relationship. Following that, you must have greater biomechanical understanding. If you take your car to a car garage, you expect them to know what they're working with. So then at this point on a seminar, I start talking to people and be like, can you move your thumb in a full circle for me? And the group are like, yeah, no problem. And some people are smart enough and they understand, like, no, you can't. It's a saddle joint. If you try to move it in a full circle, it won't do an elliptical circle. It'll straighten off because it's a saddle joint. So you need to know the joints that you're working with. You need to know the origin sessions of muscles. You don't need to name them off one by one. Ideally you do, but you don't need to every day. You don't need to say this because we coach with simplicity. But by having an understanding of the system that you're working with in the body, it will allow you to make better decisions towards movement quality. And we really are working towards movement quality. The biggest thing that we advocate, and this is where we advocate so much with the CrossFit methodology, is CrossFit tells us mechanics, consistency, and intensity. Now, CrossFit tells us mechanics, consistency, intensity, and that's what we should be coaching towards. However, then when people come into a CrossFit gym, they go, so what's CrossFit? And then they go, constantly varied functional movements at high intensity. Fuck mechanics. And so all of a sudden, they're working towards this high intensity with a poor quality of movement, not considering mastery of movement. I mean, they're forgetting the first thing, which is the base of one of the other pyramids. So then we start to look at mechanics and how can I understand mechanics? And our first, we have a couple of pyramids, but that first big pyramid is coach-athlete relationship, biomechanical understanding, and then it's movement competency identification. Now, at this point, if you don't have biomechanical understanding, what are you comparing what you see to what you know? We must have a greater depth of understanding. And to be able to see more, you must have that pre-knowledge understanding beforehand. Now you're watching movement, you can start to make decisions, you can start to make changes. You use coaching cues, coaching interventions, and coaching constraints. Following that, then you've got the actual coaching intervention, and then you go for a reviewing process. Was I effective? Now, if you were not effective, was I not effective because I don't have a coach-athlete relationship? I need to develop that coach-athlete relation first. And the reason, you could be the most technical, fantastic coach who knows everything in the world, but if you don't have the ability to develop that athlete with a relationship, no coaching will happen. Or is it the fact that your understanding of movement or the way the body is meant to move functionally doesn't work in your brain, and you need to develop that further? Therefore, we need greater understanding in this area and field. We give direction around that. We give muscle cheat sheets and understanding of origin insertion of muscles, but we're not there to teach you anatomy and physiology. There are thousands of other courses that you can do for that. And we really say, and that's the one thing we do, is try and stay within our realm. I've recently seen a lot of companies where they start to say, come to our seminar, our clinic, because we'll help you on retention. But the thing that will help you the most on retention is being an effective coach. And if you want to be an effective coach, you have to understand relationships, and you have to be able to go to the deeper side of coaching.
I laugh at the saddle joint thing because it's hilarious to actually watch an entire room of people do that with their thumb and go.
And I guarantee you, everyone
just got their
listening to
first
this
thumb for the first time. Yeah. You're like, my whole life is a lie. But for anybody that's listening to this, I promise you, if you just go back and re-listen to that 5 minutes right there, maybe it's like 7 minutes, I think, so much of your problem would be solved the better you can understand that segment. And the reason I say that is that, to your point about, retention, right? To use that example of it. Retention is only a problem in any business when people are paying you for the thing that you're not giving them.
Exactly.
And so if transactionally you're not fulfilling on the contract that you're engaging into, which is that I'm going to help you get to the X, Y, or Z, then you're absolutely not going to be there. But this is where you come back to that coach-athlete relationship, because that piece, unfortunately, is missed so often. In that, I would almost guarantee, as a challenge to anybody that is listening to this, without looking, can you list off 10 of your athletes' goals, pursuits, interests, or endeavors? And unfortunately, you really can't. And as a business owner, I get it, right? You sit in the office and you're distracted from that, and you're not on the floor anymore. You can make the excuses for it, but somebody on that floor should be knowing what is the pursuit. Because what I think ends up happening for so many people is that in this coaching, this instruction conversation, is that we get so distracted by the amount of information we think we need to consume to become good instructors. We overlook the fact that we are parading as coaches, and then you end up in this ethical or moral conflict where the very thing that you're doing is not actually what you're doing. And this is a whole industry problem. Nobody's doing it maliciously, but because we're so distracted by the instruction part of it, nobody has any time to step back and be like, despite what I know, what would you do with my knowledge? Because that's really what it comes down to, right? Because it's not so much about, I think the entire Western world, and I think I've said this on the podcast before, has a problem with education, in that we tend to think of education in terms of ownership. When I learn something, I own that thing, and then it's my job to own that and be proud. And then if I got lots of ownership, I can put my diploma or my degree or my thing on the wall, and then I'm better than everybody else. And in the coaching industry, and in many other industries too, but really particularly in the coaching industry, knowledge is about the application of information. And this piece is so absent, I think, when you get distracted with instruction. Instruction is about accumulation. Like, I need to learn so that I can have better sermons. I can have better, conversations. But coaching is about, how do I apply this information to help somebody out? And Birdbox does such a good job of that, because for really, and lack of a better explanation, you don't spend a ton of time on the stuff that is covered by other people, right? Like, the methodology is sound and it's there and it's done. So we don't have to get into the nitty gritty and the nuances. And otherwise, it's, hey, how are you applying that, right? And I think that's the reason why, we so proudly have such a strong partnership with Birdbox for coach development, is that nobody really needs to necessarily learn more things. We believe this on the affiliate side as well as the coach side. I mean, there is some learning, but for the most part, it's mostly about let's get to doing, because you already know what to be doing. You're just not applying it the right way. And as it applies to the coaching floor, and it starts with, are you an instructor or are you a coach? And maybe you want to become a coach, but I think Birdbox does a really good job of highlighting, like, oh, wow, I'm not yet a coach, but this is what needs to happen to get there. And I think that will solve so many people's problems, and just being like, oh, I'm literally selling people shoes and giving them gloves. Like, that's not even the same thing. And they're surprised what's happening.
What's good about that ascension of understanding.
I don't know if you're talking or you're singing to yourself over there.
Me, can you hear me now?
She going. Look at this, is great. And finally, Lisa is silent.
Can you hear me, Birdie?
I can hear you.
Yeah, well, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. You can't hear me.
Uh-oh, technology has failed her.
Birdie can hear me.
Wait, if it fails you, does that mean it fails the whole episode? Because that would be a bad thing, because we're not recording this a third time.
No, Birdie can hear me
all the way through.
I can't hear anybody.
Yeah. That's you.
That's a Tony problem. He was very happy there.
I think I know why.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Stand by. It's my technology.
Tony's admitted he was in the wrong for a change. We better mark this down. I'll timestamp it. Now
say something.
Hello.
There we go. That's me.
So
the whole time. I'm the asshole. You know what they say? If everyone else is the asshole, you're the asshole.
Apology accepted. So but we're going to timestamp this.
We mute Lisa again, because it's very peaceful on my end when Lisa's not talking.
As I was saying, it's this ascension of, like, you go and realize where you're at in your coaching journey and what you're missing, because there's such a focus that people assume that, well, I've got my L2, 3, or 4, I'm a coach. Well, you've passed some assessments, you've passed a test, but here are the skills that are really going to move you from that trainer instructor mode to being an actual coach, and understanding where those skill gaps are. Like, am I shit at building relationships? Do I not really understand why my thumb won't spin in a circle, or why it shouldn't spin in a nice flat circle? Like, if that has blown your mind, you can see where the gaps are, rather than just going, well, I'm a coach, I passed the latest level.
So the best thing of that is that even if, like, people listen to this and then be like, I think I'm pretty good, we take another reference from academia, and this is how we actually start the seminar. And we say that coaches are blissfully unaware of their own actions. That the athletes that they're coaching, or the peer coaches they work with, are better perceivers of their actual actions. So in simplest terms, you may think you're a fantastic coach. However, if I want to know you're a fantastic coach, I need to go and speak to your athletes. They will tell me how you coach and how you communicate. They'll tell me about their level of progression. Now, I actually did a talk at the affiliate gathering. I'm actually doing another affiliate gathering next weekend in Netherlands. And I did a talk at the affiliate gathering in the UK. And I had Nicole Carroll sat down at the front row on the left of me. And I asked the group a question.
No, he's stuck. This is not my time. There he goes.
Define mastery.
Elon Musk doesn't like him today.
No. We just never meant to record with Birdie.
He'll come back. But at least he's not frozen in a bad face.
No, that's always a pleasant surprise when that happens.
I'm sure he'll have it on. The story is a good one, so I need him to come back to do it.
Yeah, to talk about it was like a mic drop. I asked a question.
Cool.
There we got him.
Was that me?
Yep.
We got him back. Yeah, that was you.
Time. We missed that whole thing. We just got to the bit where
we got you. Nicole Carroll in the front row. That was where we got to.
I went to affiliate gathering. I've got another one coming up next week, which is in the Netherlands, but I went to the affiliate gathering in the UK. Now, at this affiliate gathering, I managed to direct a question to the group. Now, the way I started off this question is I defined mastery. And I said, mastery is the development of the ability to potentially use the 100% of the athlete's ability. But I define it in the simplest way, that we say that the eccentric and the concentric movement should look identically the same. We use this in CrossFit gymnastics. We use this through Birdbox. So if you imagine an air squat, if the athlete goes down and all things being well, you are stronger eccentrically than concentrically. In mastery of position, you should come up with exactly the same way. So if you consider the people in your gym doing a back squat, the way they go down with mastery and position, they should come up the same way. Now, if they go down and they butt wink, they twist, or there's an alternative position of movement, there is not mastery shown in that movement. I defined this first of all to the group, and I said to them, please tell me what you think is the percentage of your membership base that could squat with mastery with anything between 40 to 50% of their maximum back squat. I had a room full of potentially 300 affiliates in front of Nicole Carroll, and they were very honest. The percentage, do you want to guess the percentage they came forward to?
I know the answer, so I can't guess it. So.
You know the answer.
Yeah.
2 to 3%. There was 5% thrown around, but actually the group decided together there was 2 to 3% of their membership base that could squat with mastery at 40 to 50% of their maximum. Mm-hmm. Now that tells me no coaching's happening. And I said this to them, and they said, no coaching's happening. And there was an agreement. They said, so how do we become better coaches, more effective coaches? And it becomes a part of holding the standard, understanding mastery, and knowing what to coach and how to coach it. The other way you can also consider this is if you were to take all of your members' power numbers, power clean or power snatch, and you take all of their squat numbers, squat snatch or squat clean, and you compare the number of power snatch to squat snatch, we should be looking at a percentage of 87%. These aren't numbers we're making up. This is actually taken from research and transferred across. So it is reference rather than it being an opinion. If we are not around the 87%, give or take 2 to 3%, we can be flexible around that. But if you find that your members are doing, let's say, a 90 kg squat snatch, but they're also doing a 90 kg power snatch, and their powers are so close to their squat movements, we know there is no coaching happening. And therefore, we are losing. So instead of it becoming a thing about understanding if the coach is effective or not, or the coach is telling me they're effective, and that's their perception of themselves, I don't even need to go and ask the members, is your coach effective? I could actually look at how people move with the definition of mastery. Are they achieving mastery in their movement? Or we could just look at the results on the board, which not many people do a lot with sometimes, and understand the workouts of the day and their actual scores and results, and be looking at these numbers and be like, no coaching's happening here. You're doing an excellent job as an exercise instructor. You're taking people through the motion every day, but you're not making them fitter, faster, stronger. And that's what you're telling them you're doing with CrossFit. You're giving them longevity by trying to make them fitter, faster, stronger every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you and I had a good conversation about that. That, like, you know, the average affiliate will tell you that they're here for, you know, objective, quantifiable fitness and the improvement of it. But, you know, we already know that the vast majority are really just score collectors, right? That's simply all that's actually happening, because no one's doing anything with that data. And, you know, to your point, like you said it, I don't even necessarily need to see what you're doing on the floor. I don't have to come in and critique your staff or even, you know, do some degree of coaching review. I can just look at the whiteboard and be like, something here isn't working because none of these numbers are matching up to where they need to be. And I think what's important about this conversation too is that none of this is to say or suggest or even, you know, support that HQ isn't doing a great job. Like, arguably, they are the greatest training platform on the planet. There is no bigger, better team to do what they do. What is a problem is what everybody is doing with that information after they acquire it. And I think this is such an important part of it. Like, you need to take those. You got to take the L1, you got to take the L2, and all the other courses that are in the ecosystem are there and chosen by HQ for a reason. But none of that does really anything until somebody starts to say, okay, how are you going to apply it? And I think Birdbox does a really good job of stepping into that piece. And so you definitely saw a need there where it was like, hey, this is how you're going to apply that information, or here's how to know whether or not you're doing a good job applying that information. And that's such a critical step of that self-reflection of, like, absent of my own politics and my own campaigning for my own bullshit, am I actually making a difference in this person? And so much of this is not about how well, and when we say coaching, when we say instruction, it's not that you need to learn more stuff. It's not that you need to learn more anatomy and more cues and have more things. And it's, when it comes to coaching, are you affecting their behavior? And by behavior, I don't mean are they making good decisions or bad decisions, although that is actually what it is. But it's, if they are not squatting below parallel, there's a physical behavioral issue that's getting them there, right? And especially if we can tell them to some degree why that's important and they're still not doing it, that's either because they don't want to, or because they can't, or because they don't understand. That's a behavioral issue. no amount of training in the world is going to affect that until somebody steps in and changes the behavior. And that's like the role of a coach. And so much of this is not about you need to learn more stuff. It's more about you need to learn how to do more with that quote unquote stuff. And I think Birdbox does a great job of that. And it is a missing piece of it. And it's the framework that Fit Affiliate's built on too, which is that, like, listen, you don't need to learn more. You can Google the answer to anything you need in your business. The problem is, why does it keep going wrong? Right? No different than the squat. Like, you know what a squat should look like. So why do you look like mashed potatoes every time I say go? Right? Like, well, that's just how I squat. Right. That's your behavior. And we need to address that so that we can actually make an improvement. Otherwise, you're going to stay right here. And I think, for that reason, it's a no-brainer why, we work so hand in hand with Birdbox, and so many of the clients, we send to you guys for that exact reason, because every coaching development is the eternal distraction of the affiliate. Not in the right way though, right? It's like, it's the thing that affiliate owners like to do to just get their coaches out of their hair and be like, I'm just going to send you to take your L whatever, or go do this thing over here. And then hopefully you just come back and my problem is solved. Right. But like, that's not happening. So real coaching development is, are your people actually able to do the thing that you are charging people for them to do? Or did you just print coach on all of your shirts and throw it to somebody who was willing to take the 5:30 a.m. class? I already know the answer, right? So let's just fix that. Cause like, you can't sell somebody, a full engine swap if you're going to literally just change their tires and be like, yeah, no, it's going to work. It'll roll better. Right? Like, it's not going to work that way. And Birdbox touches on that because nobody else is really touching on the psychosocial. Everybody's talking about the curriculum and the exercise science, and those are great things, but I don't think the world needs much more of that. And nobody's going to do a better job of that than HQ is. But somebody's got to know how to apply it.
HQ going through the level 1, level 2, like this is a fundamental understanding of what CrossFit is and how to provide CrossFit. That is what their intent is, and they're doing an amazing job of that. We are defining the difference between exercise instruction and coaching. However, you need to be an effective exercise instructor before you can become a more effective coach. You need to be able to control a room and direct people, which is exactly what level 1, level 2 are providing people the understanding to be able to do. Without that, there is no further step forward. When it comes into like coaching development, you can go away and read everything forever. People leave the course and like, hey, I want a read list. I'm like, that's great. But you need to also put this into practice, because you can know everything under the sun. And if you don't use anything, then it's a complete waste of time. So it's the practical application and how to become more effective in that. And that's where we use the transformational coaching model. That is the simplest approach we can.
It's being open to that process. Some of the psychological aspects to coaching don't necessarily come natural to 90% of the population, where it's kind of like, oh, good job, or oh, you're a bit stressed today, we'll just do more burpees, more, oh, you didn't do that again, okay, well, you fell off your eating plan again, well, let's just restart, rather than getting into why, and understanding that deeper level of, it's not a natural skill, so I need to understand how to learn that and be open to learning that and practicing it and understanding it's going to feel a bit, awkward and uncomfortable to start with. But that's as you said earlier, the bottom of the pyramid is forming that connection is going to make all those other things 3,000% better.
Yeah, 100%. Like example running off that, the first bit you said is, we get people coming in where we're considering transformational coaching. One areas of transformational coaching is charisma. There are 10 key points to charisma. One of them is pauses. So when I go to a Spanish or a Latin speaking country and they don't stop talking constantly, I literally can count for 1 minute how many words they say in a minute. And sometimes I just turn around to them and I go 134 WPM, words per minute. And they go, what? 134. How do you squeeze 134 words in 1 minute constantly as you're coaching? How many of them have just been absorbed? So therefore, in terms of charisma and being more effective, we know that if we strive to be transformational, we'll be more effective. One of the 5 areas of transformational coaching is charisma. One of the 10 key points of charisma is pauses, or even trying to use silence. So therefore, let's make your words more effective. That is a physical step to make that athlete or that coach more effective.
Sure. Yeah.
Practical application.
A really good litmus test of this too is kind of what Lisa just touched on it. Like one of the easiest ways to know or highlight whether or not you have, an instruction or coaching problem or a transactional versus transformational problem is simply to look at how effective are you at applying or administering a nutrition program inside your affiliate. And we already know that, despite the fact that it is the foundation of the entire CrossFit pyramid, I would say that probably maybe on the high side, 3% of CrossFit affiliates are effective at this. And one of the reasons for that is that nutrition, as it applies to instruction, is almost useless. There's not a human on the planet who doesn't know that chicken, broccoli, and water is probably the answer. The question is, why don't you want to eat them? And this is barring obviously very specific, training or nutrition programs for certain things. But like in regards to actually making somebody a healthier, happier, more, effective human, it's not about what they need to eat. They already know what they need to eat. The question is, why aren't they eating it? And this is the foundational problem and why it doesn't work in an affiliate. Everybody's like, what am I going to teach them? I got to teach them about blocks. That isn't going to matter. You can tell them how palm size, thumb size, finger size, you can call them blocks, you can call them macros, you can call everything you want. They already know it for the most part, your clients. They know that they need to eat better. The question is, why aren't they? And so that is a behavioral based conversation that has to happen in the coach athlete relationship. And that right there shows you that people are like, one of the fundamental problems of the average affiliate is that they think their information is what people is paying them for or are paying them for. And they have to understand that no, they're paying you for transformation, and transformation requires a relationship, and a relationship is worth a fuck ton of money. It's not education, right? Because like you can Google all the information under the sun right now. And by the time they get to you, I promise you, they have Googled quite a bit. They're just shit at applying it because nobody's addressed their behavior.
Well, there's a big difference to being talked at and lectured at and being made to feel like you're failing at something versus someone sitting down and saying to you, why is this so hard for you? Like, what's the struggle here? Tell me, because I want to help you. I want to work with you, rather than you're not following your food plan. You suck. You're a shitty human. Yeah. And go, well, that's just nothing I failed at. See us. I'll go somewhere else. And the cycle continues. So I think that's definitely a big piece in the puzzle, and being okay to have those conversations and sit in and hold the space. And like you said, Birdy, shut up. Just say it and be quiet. Like, just hold the space.
Hold the space. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, you see it all the time too, like people love to carpet bomb coaching development by, you just got to care. And then they're like, just care more. Oh yeah, that's exactly what the problem is. Just care more. There's no way to convey care through the instruction model. Like, you can make it fun, you can make it entertaining, and you can make it, exciting to some degree, but care requires relationship, and that requires transformation, and that requires coaching. And so like, you can try all you want, and you can put it on all the t-shirts that you want, but until you actually start coaching, you can't start caring about people. And that's not instruction. It's not about your ability to hit the points of performance and hit these cues and recite these things and deliver this information. It's, to Birdy's point, like, just show me how your people move. I'll tell you if you care.
Well, you can make an analogy of that, is that people who care, let's say a nurse cares, she really cares, and she wants to look after people. She cares so much that today she decides to be a surgeon. She doesn't understand what she's working with, what's inside the body, but she's going to decide to work inside that body today. She cares, really freaking fucking cares, but she hasn't got a clue.
You got to get that thing out of them.
Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, the whole thing is I think so important about it, and I think Birdbox does a great job of it. I mean, TGC has been doing it for a very long time, and one of the big frustrations with TGC for so many coaches who took it is they're like, it's like giving them a nuclear weapon to go back to a knife fight. They're like, what on earth am I going to do with all this behavioral based neurological information that requires me to have conversations and communication and sit down and like, how do I take this back to my gym and just put it on the whiteboard? Well, you don't, because gymnastics is just the neurological aspect of fitness, and that requires coaching. And like, it was a no-brainer that Birdbox came to life for that exact reason, because it was at the tail end of every Sunday, you're just like, how did they miss this? Right. And it wasn't even so much that it was like, what's wrong with them? It was more so like, oh, it's just not a part of the consciousness. And I think that that's why it's very cool. And, you see it in the room too, having sat in the room to watch people be like, oh, especially in like the practical review stuff that you do. And then in the email feedback that you give to them, they're like, wow, that is nothing. It's an epiphany, right? It's an awareness, and that awareness precedes action. And I think that they all need it.
Throughout the weekend, we have structures as well. So there's the underpinning pieces of reasoning for them to be able to go away with that depth. But the written feedback is individually personalized. Everyone receives that individually written to them off the back of the course material of what they need to go in action. That really does separate us from anything else in terms of coaching development or educational courses, because it is specific to the individual. Because if we don't hold the standard of coaching the individual within a relationship, then everything we spoke through the weekend would just be in hypocrites. So we make sure we hold that standard as well.
Yeah. And cool. I mean, I think that does a great job of highlighting, well, one, both a need and a solution. Birdbox would be your solution. If you find yourself in a position of retention issues, or you find yourself in a position of not being able to actually deliver on the thing that you're actually charging people for, or you just frankly find yourself, well, in an unfortunate situation with poor coaches, Birdbox is, in my opinion, literally the only psychosocial solution that you have at your disposal, especially in a seminar format, and especially in a scalable format. So hopefully this episode, I think, brings some of that to light. And frankly, I mean, there's a lot more that I want to dig into. And now that we've got the first one officially, I think, knock on wood, recorded, I think we can jump into some deeper parts of that in some future episodes, which I think will be a fun sort of recurring guest relationship there, because there's so much in that nuance that you and I loved. We've talked about it enough times, but that was usually over beers and in private, and there was probably a lot more swear words than YouTube will like us to put out there. But I think we can clean it up a little bit. But maybe we'll record, we'll go skiing, you'll snowboard and I'll go skiing, and then we'll just put Lisa remotely on and we'll just be on the ski slope.
That'd be easy. Yeah.
Just on the chair.
Just as you go back up. But we will put all of the your contact stuff for Birdbox, TGC in the show notes clearly, but highly recommend, if you are in the vicinity of a Birdbox seminar, jump on, of course, to TGC, but expand your coaching horizons for sure. And we will definitely have you back on again. I'm glad we coordinated, and looking forward to chatting some more, Birdy, for sure.
Thanks very much, guys.
Everybody's in 3 different time zones here, so
it's a joke.
I love the internet. Literally, yeah, we're like one giant loop around there. We just need, I guess we technically have Eurasia. It's like we just need someone in like the southern hemisphere. I guess Lisa counts as southern hemisphere.
I am the southern hemisphere. That's where I live.
That's true. All right. I've forgotten your prison colony over there.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's show. Please remember to like and subscribe on your favorite platform. And if you know an affiliate owner, a coach, or entrepreneur that would benefit from hearing our conversations, please share this with them. We love the feedback and support we have from you guys, our audience. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find all the useful links in the show notes. We would love to connect with you. Keep doing the great work.